Hello, my name is Kira and I'm 31 years old. A few years ago, I almost lost my life on my birthday. My birthday is approaching again and I thought that I'd upload my story here for anyone who's interested to hear it. I met my ex-husband, Andy, through a dating app. We had the same sense of humor and he made me laugh until my sides hurt. We went on a few dates and gradually fell in love, and we dated for around 4 years before we got married. By this point, we were very well known and adored by each other's families. I was especially loved by Andy's parents, Carl and Marcy. They only had one son, Andy, and they'd always wanted a daughter. So whenever I went over, they'd treat me like I was a queen. My family was no different. They lived a little further away, about a 7-hour drive from our place, so Andy and I would visit them once a month or so. They adored Andy and spoiled him senselessly. The one person who loved Andy the most was my grandmother. She always asked to spend time with him, and Andy loved spending time with her too. They quickly became best friends, and it warmed my heart to see the two of them interact. But then one day, about 2 years into my marriage with Andy, I got a call in the middle of the night from my mom, who told me that my grandmother had passed away in her sleep. Up until then, my grandmother was in perfect health, so her sudden passing was shocking. Andy and I spent the next few days in my town, surrounded by my family. We were all hit pretty hard by the death of my grandmother, but Andy surprisingly was unfazed by the whole thing. He barely shed a tear, which a lot of people considered odd given his close relationship with my grandmother. I didn't question it because I figured that everybody had different ways of dealing with their grief, but after the funeral was over, we had a reading of the will. It turned out that my grandmother had saved up a lot of money and had made a bunch of smart investments throughout her life. The entire family got very handsome amounts of money left to them. I got $500,000 and I immediately hired a financial advisor the next day. The advisor guided me on what to do with it, and in the end, I decided to invest 70% of it while I'd use the rest of it to help Andy and I pay off some loans and to spoil the both of us. I asked Andy if he was okay with that, and he told me he had no say in what I did with my inheritance, so he'd be okay with whatever I decided. So I went ahead with my plan. When Andy and I returned home, I noticed that Andy was still quiet and withdrawn. He always seemed lost in thought, and I was beginning to get worried, so I gently approached him one day and asked him if everything was all right. Hey, is everything okay? Yeah, why? Nothing. I just noticed you've been different recently. Is something bothering you? I don't want to trouble you with it. Come on, I'm your wife. You're supposed to trouble me. That's part of the job description of a husband. This isn't something that's fun or lighthearted, which is why I don't want to talk about it. Just talk to me about it, and if I don't like it, I'll ask you to stop, okay? Fine. Do you ever wonder when you'll die? You were right. This is dark. I told you. That's enough. No. I was just making an observation, but yeah, I do think about it from time to time. Isn't it scary that you could die at any point? I can't imagine losing you. It is scary to think about, but we're usually very careful. Besides, whatever's meant to happen will happen, and there's nothing much we can do about it. Is this about my grandmother passing away? Yeah, it's just that death freaks me out. I don't like knowing that one day I'll never wake up. That's a very valid worry, but I guess that's just more motivation to live every day the best we can. I guess. Do you think we should get our wills made? What? Yeah, I mean, if one of us suddenly passes away, we need to have our wills in place. Oh, you're being serious. My grandma's death really freaked you out, huh? Big time. But I was doing some research and realized that it would be best for us to make our wills way ahead of time. It's a great way to take care of your partner in case one of us passes away suddenly. Will doing that make you feel better? Yeah. But if you don't want to do it, we don't have to. No, we'll do it. But why don't we put that thought aside for a bit? Sure. Do you think that we could get it done next week? We'll see about it, darling. I need a definite answer so I can get things arranged for us. Whoa, okay, we can get it done next week. Calm down a little for me, please. Sorry. I just want this done so I can feel better. I'm a little too on edge about this whole thing. I get it. But for today, let's try to put it out of our minds, okay? Yeah, okay. It was kind of cute to see Andy all worked up about the concept of death at that time. I wasn't scared of it, nor did the topic plague my mind. I barely thought of it, but it made me feel nice that Andy thought of things like that and made the effort to find out the best things to do to ensure that his wife was well taken care of in case he lost his life. Of course, I didn't know the truth until much later, but I'll get back to this later. The next week was spent drafting our wills. Initially, I decided that I'd want to leave something for my parents, especially since I'd received such a large inheritance from my grandmother, but Andy was very much against that. I tried to compromise with him. I told him he could have 60% of my assets while my parents could get the remaining 40%, but Andy would not have it. I tried to fight him on it, but Andy refused to budge. He kept insisting that I leave everything to him. I felt very uneasy about the whole thing. I don't know how exactly to explain how I felt, but I felt like there was something very wrong. Andy had a crazed look in his eyes when he insisted that I leave everything I owned to him. I ended up doing what he wanted anyway because I figured that he was acting that way only because he was still freaked out about death. After we were done with our wills, it was like a switch had flipped in Andy and he was back to being his usual bubbly self. It was a little disconcerting to see him switch so fast from being moody and melancholic to bubbly and energetic. But I was just glad that he was no longer sad. Our lives resumed and returned to what they had been before, and then my birthday approached. I was not a big fan of my birthday because every birthday I've had, something bad has happened. The birthday before this birthday, I got into a minor accident, and the one before that, I lost my phone. So I was never too excited about my birthday. But this particular year, Andy was extremely excited about my birthday. The day before my birthday, Andy popped into my home office while I was wrapping up some paperwork to check in on me. How's the birthday girl doing? Andy, it's not my birthday till tomorrow. I know, but I'm excited, aren't you? Well, I don't typically enjoy my birthdays, and you know this. But seeing you excited for me makes me very happy. Good. Also, I'm really sorry that I've been freaking out the last few weeks. Death is just scary. I feel bad that I spent the weeks leading up to your birthday making you do things regarding death instead of reminding you of how grateful I am that you're alive and with me. Hey, it's okay. I get it. Death is not a light subject, and I kind of liked how cautious you got. It was a smart move to make our wills in case something went wrong. Don't worry too much about it. Even if you haven't spent the last few weeks celebrating my life, I'm sure you'll make tomorrow a great day. Of course, I will. Do you have any plans for tomorrow? Well, I'll probably meet with some of my friends for brunch tomorrow, but other than that, I don't have anything planned. Great, because I have planned something for us. Oh, what is it? I reserved a table at Dad's restaurant for your birthday dinner tomorrow. I asked Dad if I could customize the menu, and he agreed. So, tomorrow at his restaurant, there will be a dish called the Kiera Special, made not only for you, but for everyone to try. What? That's crazy. Oh my God, that's so cute and so cool. Am I the best husband or what? Definitely the best. My parents will be sitting with us for dinner too, but after we're done with dinner, the two of us could go on a long drive and stop by the beach to watch the stars. That sounds absolutely perfect. I'm excited to see Carl and Marcy again. It's been a while. Oh, they're ecstatic to see you. My mom won't stop trying to have a say in my planning for you. Of course, I'm not letting her because this is my gift to you. Oh, come on, let her do something too. Are you saying you don't like what I've planned so far? I'm kidding. I didn't mean that at all. I appreciate anything you do for me. You better mean that. Anyway, I have to go right now. Where are you going? I'm swinging by Dad's restaurant to talk to the chef about the Kiera special. It needs to be perfect for tomorrow. Okay, come back soon. I found Andy's enthusiasm kind of infectious, and I went from not really caring about my birthday to being excited for it. I was even more excited that we were going to be having dinner with his parents at Carl's restaurant. When Carl decided to open a restaurant a year after Andy and I got married, I was the first to show up and help him set up. His restaurant grew very successful. It was a fine dining adjacent restaurant. It wasn't entirely fancy, nor was it like a bistro. It was the perfect blend of the two, so it had a lot of business. Carl would often talk to me about the business, and I enjoyed listening to him talk about it, especially since Andy barely cared much for it. He was just happy that his father was happy. I was excited to spend my birthday at his restaurant because the food there was genuinely good, and I loved being able to support him on that day. The next day, Andy spoiled me with a lot of gifts and coffee from my favorite coffee shop. He had a bath ready for me and made it all romantic. He dropped me off at the place my friends were meeting me for brunch and then picked me up with flowers in hand. We got ready together for dinner, and when we got there, Marcy was already seated at our table. She greeted us and wished me a happy birthday before Carl came towards us and loudly wished me a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Kiera, sweetie. How's the birthday girl doing? Thank you so much, Carl. I'm doing great. I'm excited for dinner. I can't wait to see what you've prepared for me. Oh yeah, the chef wanted to meet you and wish you a happy birthday. Oh, that's sweet. Come on then. You could also see how the kitchen works. You were asking me about it the other day, so let's go. Come back soon. I'll be right back, honey. I didn't remember asking Carl how the kitchen worked, but I appreciated the fact that he thought I'd liked it. I walked with Carl into the kitchen where he then stopped me. Okay, I have to tell you something. Huh? What's going on? I only made an excuse to get you away from the table and away from Andy. Why, is everything okay? Andy came to the restaurant yesterday and asked to see the chef. I didn't think much of it because you know how Andy loves to cook. I thought he wanted to cook something special for you, so I let him go and didn't check in on what he was saying. Uh-huh. After Andy left, the chef came up to me and showed me a tiny bottle that Andy had given him that contained crushed peanuts. He asked the chef to sprinkle it in your food. What? But I'm deathly allergic to peanuts. I know. I was shocked and I didn't know how to contact you without Andy knowing. But why would Andy do that? I have no idea. But whatever it is, I highly doubt that it's a good reason to almost kill you. Has he been behaving differently or weirdly recently? I mean, I don't think so. After my grandmother died, he did get a little weird, but he told me that he was just freaked out by death, especially the death of a close family member. What do you mean by weird? Like, he rushed us to get our wills done because he was scared that we would die at any time. Did you by chance inherit any money from your grandmother? Yeah, I inherited a little more than $500,000. And who did you leave as your inheritor in your will? Andy, and he was weirdly adamant about it being him. Bingo. I think he wants your money. That's crazy. Why would he want it? What have you done with the money since you got it? I invested most of it in stocks and the rest I put aside to buy myself some things that I've always wanted. I also spent some of it on Andy, so I don't see why he'd want the money. I don't know why he wants the money, but I bet there's something deeper here. Just try to pretend like you have no idea about what I said. I made sure the chef doesn't put anything in your food, so you don't have to worry about it. we'll catch Andy and find out what exactly he wants. I was beyond confused about what was going on. I couldn't fathom Andy doing something like that. He just spent the whole day pampering me. Why would he try to hurt me like that? But he had gone out to meet with the chef the previous day, and this was the first birthday of mine that he'd been so affectionate and caring. I also didn't see any reason for Carl to lie to me or make up something so crazy. When our food came out, I tried to take a picture of the food to post on my social media, but Andy kept insisting that I take a bite of the food. I tried to laugh it off and told him that I wanted to take a pretty picture so that I could promote Carl's restaurant too. But Andy got weirdly aggressive about me not eating. I looked at Carl and he looked just as concerned as I was, so I decided to follow along with Carl's plan. I took a bite of the food, which, by the way, was delicious, but after a few seconds I pretended to have an allergic reaction. I started coughing and looking panicked. Andy looked almost manic, but Marcy was the first to be concerned for me. "Sweetie, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I don't know what's happening. My throat feels like it's closing up. "What?" "Andy, could you take my EpiPen out of my bag?" "Sure, it's not here." "What? It's not here? Oh my God." "What's going on?" "I think there were peanuts in the food." "What?" "Impossible. I specifically made sure that none of your food had peanuts in it." "Who cares? Right now, Kiara needs her EpiPen, and then she needs to go to the hospital. Call 911. I'll go back home to get the EpiPen." "Forget 911. I'll rush her to the hospital. The ambulance will take some time to come anyway. Come on, Kiara, let's go." Andy had left, and Carl and I got in Carl's car. We drove around the block and waited until we were sure that Andy had left. I couldn't understand why Andy thought that finding my EpiPen was more important than accompanying me to the hospital, but I tried to justify it with him being too panicked to think straight. Carl and I returned to the restaurant in time to see Marcy angrily marching towards the kitchen to yell at the chef. We stopped her in time, and she was shocked to see us there. "Carl, what are you doing here? Is Kiara okay? Why aren't you at the hospital?" "Kiara's fine." "I'm here. I didn't actually have an allergic reaction to anything." "What? Why would you fake an anaphylactic allergic reaction? That's messed up, Kiara." "Calm down, darling. We needed to test something out." "You were in on her little app?" "I told her to do that. Yesterday, Andy handed the chef a vial of crushed peanuts to put in Kiara's food." "What? Why would he do that?" "That's what we wanted to test. His reaction seemed normal so far, so I wonder what he could have possibly wanted. Kiara and I thought that he was probably after her inheritance." "That's crazy. Why would Andy need Kiara's inheritance? And even if he did, couldn't he have just asked her?" "Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because if he'd asked me, I would have readily given it to him. But he had been acting weirdly since my grandmother passed away, and that's why it's the only thing Carl and I could think of." "So what do you think he's going to do now?" "I have no idea, but I made sure to change all my bank account passwords so that he has no way to get into them." "That's great. Will you get a notification if he tries to log into your account?" "Yeah, I will. Oh, would you look at that? I got a message from my bank saying that I have only one more attempt to log into my account before they freeze it for a day." "Oh my God. What do we do? Andy literally tried to kill you, Kiara." "Let's call the police and go over to Andy and Kiara's home. We'll get our answers out of him before the police arrive. Come on, we don't have time to wait." We grabbed all of our stuff while Carl called 911 to inform them about our situation. The 911 operator asked us a lot of questions to make sure that Andy was not armed or able to hurt us in any other way. When Carl told her that Andy was not armed, the operator told us to keep Andy occupied at his current location until the police arrived. We got back home as quickly as we could. My heart was pounding. I couldn't believe that Carl's and my hunch were right. Why in the world would Andy need my money? And why did he have to plan this out so much? And more importantly, did he have to hurt me to get the money? My emotions kept swinging from confused to angry to scared. Marcy and Carl looked just as afraid and confused as I was. Marcy held my hand the entire drive home. I knew exactly what she was feeling, but I couldn't comfort her in any way because I was just as confused as her. When we got closer to my place, we parked the car a little further away from my house. We then walked over to my house and I quietly let us in. I had Carl put his phone in his shirt pocket with the camera facing outward because I wanted to record our confrontation with Andy in case Andy tried to go back on his word later. I quietly looked through the living room and the kitchen and didn't find Andy there. The bedroom lights were off and the only other place he could have been was my home office. I quietly opened that door and saw Andy searching through all my things like he was desperately trying to find something. Eventually he noticed me. "Kiera, what are you doing here? I thought you'd be in the hospital." "That's what you wanted, isn't it?" "Dad, Mom, what's going on?" I think the more important question is, why were you trying to access my bank accounts? "What? I wasn't doing any of that. I was only searching for your EpiPen." "Save it, Andy. I can see which device tried to access my account and it shows yours. Why did you try to kill me to get into it?" "What are you talking about?" "Stop playing around, Andy. My chef told me about your plan to induce an allergic reaction out of Kiera on her birthday. He showed me the vial you slipped him and handed me the cash that you paid him to do it." "Why did you do it, son? Why do you need Kiera's money so bad?" "Oh, God, fine, I did it. I tried to hurt Kiera for her money. I'm in a really tough spot, and I needed the money." "Tough spot? What kind of tough spot do you have to be in for you to have to kill me?" "I borrowed money from some dangerous loan sharks, and I needed money to pay them back. I couldn't tell you because you'd be upset with me, and you wouldn't give me the money." "You borrowed money? But why? You make more than enough money, and if you needed any extra money, you could have asked me. You didn't have to try to kill me." "I've been gambling. I accumulated quite a large debt because of it. I was too ashamed to tell you, so I went to these loan sharks that hang around the casino and I borrowed money. Now they're after me to return the money, but I don't have any. So, let me get this straight. You're in some horrible debt and have people after you for money. And instead of talking to Kiera like a normal person, you chose to poison her food with the one thing you knew would be deadly to her." "I know I messed up. I'm sorry, but I was only doing what I had to." "Sorry is not going to cover anything. You don't even sound sorry. Do you know what your little stunt would have done to my business if you'd succeeded? I would be facing charges of negligence, so along with possibly killing your wife, you would have ruined your mother and my lives. All because you refused to communicate. You're a disgrace, Andy. I don't know where we went wrong with raising you, but I'm beyond ashamed to call you our son. Look, fine, I didn't entirely think the whole thing through. I'm sorry. Please, just don't let news of this get out. I'm already struggling and I cannot handle anything more." "You do realize that what you did was attempted murder, right? You're going to jail." "No, please, I'm sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it. I can't go to jail." "There's nothing you could do that would make up for putting my life in danger." "If you want, I'll leave you alone. Please, just let it go. Wait, what are those sirens? Did you already call the cops on me?" "You made me feel beyond unsafe today. You tried to kill me. What did you expect? That I just come home without any protection? How could you?" "No, Andy. How could you? I've never done anything to make you feel like you can't come up to me with your problems. There was no reason to put my life at risk. We could have talked through your problem instead of this. You were so worried about the loan sharks getting to you. Well, don't worry. In prison, they probably won't bother you. The police knocked on the door right after I was done making my point, and Marcy let them in. We showed them the recording of the conversation, and they arrested Andy immediately. Andy tried to fight them, but was sustained by one of the police officers. They took him to the police station, where we had to go and file an official report against him. The police officer recommended that I lawyer up because Andy was going to have to get tried in court for attempted murder. After all my work at the police station was done, Marcy and Carl bid me goodbye. When I got back home, I broke down crying. I couldn't believe what my marriage or my life had come to. That was definitely one of the worst birthdays I'd had. Why had Andy hidden something like that from me? Had I ever given him a reason to not come and talk to me? I'd helped him with many debts and payments, so why wouldn't I have helped him with his huge debt either? I would have been mad, but I still loved him, so I would have helped him out. I couldn't believe that my life would have ended if it wasn't for the honest chef at Carl's restaurant. I was racked with so much anxiety about the thought of Andy having planned this out for so long. Did he even struggle with the thought of trying to hurt me, or was he happy about it? How had Andy planned my birthday so happily in front of me while knowing that he planned to end my life that very day? I couldn't believe that I'd married a psychopath. Over the next few months, I kept having to attend hearings in court for Andy's attempted murder charge. Andy's lawyers tried to say that Andy never tried to kill me. He just planned to hurt me a little. They knew they couldn't take away the charge against him, but they could reduce it. But I had enough evidence to show that Andy had been meticulous about the consumption and use of peanuts in our house. He knew that even the smallest amount would have been fatal to me. The chef from Carl's restaurant also testified against Andy and confirmed that Andy was adamant about the chef sprinkling the peanut powder all over my food. After a lot of cross-questioning, Andy finally confessed to his attempted murder of me, and he was sentenced to 30 years in prison. I was relieved to know that Andy was going to suffer for what he tried to do to me. He could not hurt me again. I filed for a divorce immediately after that. It was tough to get that done too, but when the divorce was finalized, I felt like a free woman again. The last thing I did was edit my will. Knowing why Andy had made me write a will in the first place was scary, but I would not let him get everything I worked so hard for if something did happen to me. Carl and Marcy had actually been amazing to me during the whole trial process, and the three of us ended up becoming really close with each other through the thing. We were devastated that Andy was no longer going to be a part of our lives, but we knew that it was for the better that this was the case. All of us made sure that none of us were on Andy's calling list for prison because we wanted nothing to do with him. So I haven't heard anything from or about him. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. In a way, I guess Andy did end up teaching me to actually enjoy every single day that I'm alive. I've been going out a lot more recently, and I've been spending as much time as I can with my friends and family. Every once in a while, I'm hit with a wave of sadness because of how much I miss Andy. But that quickly goes away when I remember what he tried to do to me. I'm glad I'm happier now, and I'm safe. I can't wait to see what more life has to offer me. And you better believe I'm going to get through every problem and experience life throws at me.